You should hear that audible message when the recording starts, so that it gives you a little bit of a warning to it, a reminder. So anyway, from what I understand, most of you have used Blackboard before, have taken other courses through the Tech College. Is there anybody that has not used Blackboard at all? Okay, so there are a couple of you. Do you have your username and password for Blackboard? Yes? Okay. So your username would just be your student ID number to start out, and then you have to go through a process of setting up a password. If you have any issues with that, let me know right away. We'll help you out with it. There is nothing in Blackboard that is required for this class. It just makes life a whole lot easier if you can access it. So once you get into Blackboard, now obviously you guys won't have near as many options as I have to sort through here to get into it, but one of the first things you will see in this course will be announcements. And so if you ever have a day where you can't be in the school and you need to log in from home, this is the information you will need right here to log in from home. So you can either just click this direct link to log into the class in a web browser, or you can download the BlueJeans app. If you go to bluejeans.com, it's a free download to download the BlueJeans app to your computer, and then you can just use this meeting ID to join this class as well from home. So if you ever have a day where you're out of school or whatever and you need to log into class, that will be an option for you. Or if you're just trying to get into class and whoever's supposed to help you get in is not there, you have that information, you can log in yourself. So anyway, outside of the announcements, there won't be a lot of announcements posted. This one will stay up throughout pretty much the whole class. On the left side of the screen here are the links to what we need for the course. Most everything is going to be in course information, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Course tools just has some options for helpful videos. The big one there is send email if you need to contact me, or if you want to contact your classmates, you can click on that and it'll give you email addresses and whatever. Or you'll have my direct email address from the syllabus in just a little bit. The My Grades link then will take you to your grade book to show you what your grades are. As the instructor, My Grades link doesn't show much. So like I said, most of the information for the course will be here in course information. And this is what yours would look like right now if you go in and look at it. You have my contact information. My email address is the most reliable way to get a hold of me. I check email a couple of times a day. My phone, not so much. I go to my office maybe twice a week to get my messages. That's about it. If you call and leave a voicemail, I will get a message in my email saying that there is a voicemail there, and I will get it relatively quickly, but email's the best way to do it. We'll come back to the syllabus here in a minute. My instructor schedule isn't so important for all of you because you're not on campus. You can't just drop in and see me. But if you do need to set up a meeting with me, we can always log into BlueJeans and do a private meeting like this if you have questions or things you need help with. If you pull up my instructor schedule, you can see my free times. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have this class time open. So if you have that time open as well, we can set up a private meeting, or there's other open times on there. I won't dwell on that too much because most of you, like I said, can't stop in and see me here anyway. Let's look at the syllabus. So this course is Math for Health Professionals. It was designed for healthcare fields, for the associate degree nursing program for one, and then our paramedic program uses this course as well. The main purpose of the course is the dosage calculations. But at the beginning of the course, we have to spend a couple of units working on basic skills to work up to where we're ready for the dosage calculations. And then at the end of the course, we spend a little bit of time working on the next step. Many of you, if you're going to go into one of those healthcare related fields, at some point will have to go on for a bachelor's degree. The two courses that are required in almost every bachelor's degree are college algebra and statistics. So the last 2 units of this course are designed to give you a little bit of a look ahead to prep you for each of those courses as you move on. The beginning of the class is pretty basic. I apologize for that. The first couple of weeks you might be kind of bored. We're going over basic material that I know you've all seen before, and I don't go over it to insult your intelligence. But one, it's a nice way for you to adjust to my language. The language I use might be different than what your high school teachers have used. Also, we tend to look at things a little differently. Rather than looking at just here, when you see these numbers, this is what you do, or this is how you do it. I like to talk about why things are done the way they are. And so another reason to go over this very basic math is we've found that when students get into the higher level of math, advanced algebra and stuff like that, a lot of their struggles on those topics come from the fact that they didn't really understand what they were doing with the basic math. They knew how to do it, but they didn't know why. And so that's one of the things we're going to spend some time on is why things are done the way they are. So this first unit especially will be easy for many of you. Please don't take it as either an insult to your intelligence or a preview of what the rest of the course is. It does get pretty complex, especially Unit 3 with the dosage calculations. Students tend to struggle with that one a little bit. We slow down there and stretch things out a bit, but please take that into consideration. It does get more difficult. We just have this basic review at the beginning. You guys don't need to know course numbers and stuff like that. You're all here, so I don't need to tell you how to get into the course. There's my contact information again. Textbooks. Hopefully you guys all have this one somewhere. Okay, good. All of our homework will be, there might be a worksheet or two that I will post out there for you. Otherwise, 98% of our homework will come out of that textbook. Other things that I highly recommend is that you have a scientific calculator, preferably fraction capable. I know some of the schools do not want you using your cell phone in the classroom at all, so please honor the rules of your school. But if you do want to use your cell phone calculator, I don't have a problem with that. But I will say most cell phone calculators have some functions that they're missing that are very helpful. If you just have a basic, like a TI-30 fraction calculator, does a lot of those things, makes it a lot simpler for you. This is just a list of our competencies for the course. The first unit is dealing with fractions, decimals, whole numbers. Again, I know it's going to be a review the first 2 weeks. Please don't take offense to it. We'll blow through it pretty quickly. In fact, our first test is going to be in week 3 already. But it's nice to have that review to get everybody on the same page. Then we look at some basic proportions, percents, and some basic algebra, review of our algebra concepts. Again, many of you have seen that before. It'll be a review for most of you, but also to make sure we're all at the same level going into the important stuff, which is going to be the dosage calculation and the measurement conversions. That's one that's really the heart of the course. And then finally, we'll look at Unit 4 is going to be graphing and some moving on to the next step of more advanced algebra. And our final Unit 5 is analyzing data or statistics. A lot of people dread statistics. I know a lot will say it's the hardest course they ever took. We don't get that deep in here. We only have a couple weeks of it. So it's not going to be that bad here. But really, statistics is probably the most useful math course you can have because statistics are everywhere. And especially if you're in a medical-related field, it's all the research and stuff is statistics. So grading information. Because of the distance format here with everybody at different locations, I actually only have 3 locations this year, which is a low over the last 5. Usually I have 5 or 6 locations going. Collecting homework just isn't practical. So homework is there as a practice for you to learn the material to prep for the tests. So that means your grade in this class will be solely based on the average of the 5-unit tests. Now I know that's scary, but a consolation of that is I do allow you to do corrections. So once you've done a test, once I return it to you, you can redo the problems on that test and send it back to me and get half your points back. So let's say you really struggle on a test and you get 70%, which is a D. You do your corrections, that gets you up to 85%, which is a B minus. So you do have that. So it's not near as intimidating as it might look at first. We have our standard college grade scale on there. Might be a little different than what you're used to at the high school, a little bit higher. That's a college-wide grade scale that we go to. As we go through the semester, I'll make sure you're aware of how your grade is going. Other than that, dropping the course while you guys are going through the high school, so we don't have to worry about that. That'll be community to work with the school with that if that happens. Final grades will be posted within a week at the end of the course. We end, I believe, May 17th, and most of you will have a week or two left of high school after that. So you should have your grades before you are done with classes at the high school. Policies, if you need help with anything, let us know. We've got resources for you. Otherwise, I know you have resources at your school too. Things are a little different for you guys. If you have any needs, whether it's a diagnosed disability or just struggle with math or test anxiety or whatever, let me know and I'm willing to work with you. I'm not one of those instructors that feels like I'm trying to weed out the people that can't make it. I feel like I'm here to do everything I can to get you through the course and help you be successful. So if you need anything, please let me know. Again, this is more for the students here on campus. These are some of the contact resources on campus. If you need them, feel free to contact any of them. We shouldn't be affected for COVID. If something does happen, like I said, if you're out of school or whatever, we have those links so you can log into Blue Jeans from home. Academic integrity, don't cheat. That one's pretty easy. This course, I allow you guys to do a little bit of like the test corrections. I allow you to work together, or if you need help from anybody else on test corrections, that's fine. I do those for two reasons. I want to make sure you get as many points back as you can, but I also want to make sure you've seen how to do a problem correctly. So if it comes up that there's problems you're struggling with, we'll do those in class if we have to get those corrections done. And then just the final warning about class being recorded, so make sure you're aware of that. And then our schedule. We have the 5 units, pre-algebra and arithmetic, basic algebra applications, measurement conversions and dosage calculations, and then the basic statistics. Anybody have any questions on procedures or policies or anything like that? Okay. So I'm going to turn this on now. You'll see a little bit more of what I see when I go into Blackboard. At the bottom of the page, you see there's folders here for each week. Right now, they're not open for you to see because I have to go in and edit them specifically for this semester. But like in week 1, once I get that open for you, I obviously have to change the dates yet. You would see for today's date, that would say January 23rd, and it'll see there's a link to recordings there. This is a recording that I have made, a generic recording. This is the recording from last year for the first day. And then I will post the new recording for this year underneath that. And then at the bottom of each posting for each day, you'll see the homework. Today you'll see the homework is going to be to email a schedule for your school to me so I know what days you are out of class. We try to schedule this course around that. Homework out of the book will start on Wednesday. You'll get your first book homework assignment on Wednesday. I should have this all turned on and ready for you by the end of the day, so when you go into Blackboard, you can find it. Now again, to get to that, once you're in the course, you click on course information, and then you'll scroll down and the folders for each week will be down below. Like I said, right now you can see it says hidden from students. I have to edit the dates in there for you. But these links, most of the time you have to actually highlight them and copy and paste them to make it work. I won't play too much of this, but if you copy and paste that link into a browser, it'll take you to a recording for the class. So you can see this is the recording from last year. I'm not going to play it, but it'll give you a little hint of what you can see what it looks like. Not great as a homework, but first couple Make that go away. There we go. So anyway, you'll have those recordings out there if you happen to miss class. So let me expand on this thing here of why I need you guys to send me a list of your vacation days at school, or if you have days that are early release that'll affect our class time, where you won't be in school for our class time. This class is scheduled for 3 hours a week, but it's only a 32-hour course. So that means between now and May 17th, we need to get 32 hours in. We have a spring break that is March, we get the actual date here. It is March 20th through 24th. So we won't have this class that week, but I know some of your high schools have spring breaks that are different weeks. So we will work around that and schedule around that. There will be days that we won't have class because if 2 of the schools are out of session, we won't have class that day in order to accommodate your schedules. So like I said, we're scheduled for 3 hours a week, but we only need over the next 17 weeks, we just need to find 32 total class hours to meet our requirement. Typically we go about 36 hours just because it takes a little bit extra time for testing in the high school format. But so that's why your assignment for this week, or for today I should say, will be sometime between now and Wednesday to send me an email with your class, with your school calendar, or just send me an email that lists what days this semester you guys will not have class on one of the days that we would be scheduled, so that I can figure out what days we are going to have class and what days we won't. And so I can get those schedules out to your school so they can plan as well. I know some years we've had high schools that have spring breaks different from mine here. And rather than cancel class on all of those spring breaks, what we'll do is I'll teach the class to one high school one week, and then the next week I'll teach it to the other high school that was on spring break the week before, so everybody gets the same lesson. So we'll figure something out. We'll get that schedule figured out hopefully by the end of this week and have that set for you. So anyway, let's get out of Blackboard. Enough policies and procedures, I feel. Let's talk a little bit about why we cover this basic stuff here at the beginning of the semester. So I mentioned you tend to teach math in this area of when you see this, you do this, this, and this, and that's it, rather than explaining why things interact the way they do. So as we go through this course, there are a few general themes in math that affect everything that we don't tend to teach. And once you see those general concepts, it makes some things easier to understand, or at least easier to remember what to do because you know why it's being done that way. And one of those simple concepts that is misunderstood is the concept of a number. So if I put a 4 up here, give me a wave. How many would say that's a number? Most would, right? You might feel like there's something coming up here, and you'd be right. That is technically a numeral. It tells us how much. It's an amount. To truly be a number, a complete number, it has to not only tell us how much, but it needs to tell us of what. So I might have 4 cows. Now that's a number. It has the 4 telling us how much. I'm going to call that the count. But then it also tells us what it is we have 4 of. The cows, in this case, which I'm going to refer to as a name. Every number has a count and a name, whether we see it there or not. Now you might be thinking, oh boy, another one of those uptight math teachers is going to make us label everything. That's not the purpose. In math, most of the labels aren't seen, but they're there. And we'll look at that as we go through stuff in the next couple of classes. To illustrate why that name is important, why the 2 parts are important, let's look at our most basic math operations. Let's look at addition and multiplication. In a lot of cases, we're taught, well, addition and subtraction are the basic operations. We do a disservice in the younger grades teaching addition and subtraction as separate operations. They really are not. Subtraction is really part of addition. They're the same operation, just addition is going forward, subtraction is going in reverse. So any rules that apply to addition also apply to subtraction. And the same relationship is true for multiplication and division. Same operation, just one goes forward, one goes reverse. So if we look at an addition problem like 4 inches plus 7 inches, what do we get there? What's our solution? That's 11 inches. It might not be terribly interesting, but let's look at what happened with our two parts of the number, the count and the name. Here we have counts of 4 and 7, and we ended up with 11. We combined those counts. Here we were adding, so we combined those counts with addition. We will combine the counts when we add or subtract. But let's look at the names. We had inches and inches, and we ended up with inches. We ended up keeping the same name. Now again, that might not seem like a terribly significant point, but there's a difference when we get to multiplication and division. So let's look at 4 inches times 7 inches. Well, 4 times 7 is 28, but it's not 28 inches, it actually is 28 inches squared. If you think about it, if we're doing 4 inches times 7 inches, chances are we're looking at a rectangle or some other shape and we're calculating an area, so we'll get square inches. So let's look at the count and the name again. We still have counts of 4 and 7. This time we combine them to get 28. We still combine the counts, but we're multiplying here, so we combine them with multiplication. Every operation we do, we are going to combine the counts in some form according to the operation. The difference comes with the names. Here we had inches, and we ended up with inches squared, or square inches. When we multiply, we also combine the names. And of course, when we divide, we'll combine the names as well. Now, as we look at that, that doesn't seem like a big difference between adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing, but it really is. It explains all of the methods we use with our different forms of numbers, and it even prescribes what numbers we can use in each operation. For example, let's say I had, let's do this, 3 cows plus 5 boys. Does that give us 8 cowboys? No, that doesn't work out. That doesn't make sense at all, does it? Or if we did it the other way, 5 boys plus 3 cows. Do we get 8 boy cows? I'm a farm kid. I'm sure some of you are as well. You can tell me that that is a bunch of bull, right? 8 boy cows. Long way to go for a joke, but there's a point behind it. We cannot add 3 cows and 5 boys because when we add numbers, we're going to keep the same name, which implies we had to start with the same name. So when we add or subtract, we must have the same name because we're going to keep the same name. To illustrate this in a more practical problem, we might look at something like 5 feet plus 2 pounds. If I'm going to add those numbers, 5 feet plus 2 pounds, well, they're different names. It's just 5 feet and 2 pounds. I cannot combine those with addition or subtraction. But for multiplication, if I had 5 feet times 2 pounds, well, when I multiply, I combine counts. 5 times 2 gives us 10. But then I also combine the names. Feet times pounds gives us foot-pounds. So when I multiply or divide numbers, I do not need the same name because we're just going to combine the name. This carries through into all of our other forms of numbers. Let's talk about everybody's favorite, fractions. I say that a little sarcastically. I realize if I asked people in the first class what they hated most about math, 4 out of 5 would probably say fractions. Let's review a little bit. That top number, of course, is called the numerator. And the bottom number is the denominator. Let's look at what those words really mean. To numerate. Every 10 years, our government sends out people to do the census. They just did it in 2020. To numerate the population. What are they doing? Well, they're counting. Denominator. We have different denominations of money. We have different denominations of organizations. To denominate means to classify or to give a name. So when we look at 3/7, a lot of people see two numbers, but it's not. It's just one number with two parts. Just like having 3 inches or 3 cows, here we have 3/7. So if we look at adding fractions, if you think back to probably 3rd or 4th grade, when you first learned to add fractions, that 3rd grade teacher said, before you can add or subtract fractions, you must have common denominator. Well, that's not anything new for fractions or anything special. Anytime we add numbers, we have to start with the same name so that we can keep the same name. Then, of course, once you had the common denominator, 3rd grade teacher said, you're going to add the numerators. 3 plus 2 is 5, and keep the common denominator of 7. Again, that's not a special process for fractions. Anytime we add numbers, we combine the counts. 3 plus 7 makes the 5, and we keep the same name. If I were multiplying 3/7 times 2/7, that same 3rd grade teacher said, oh, you just multiply straight across. Numerator times numerator. 3 times 2 is 6, and denominator times denominator. 7 times 7 is 49. Again, that's not a new process for fractions. Anytime we multiply numbers, we combine the counts, and then we also combine the names. 3 plus 2 gave us the 6, or 3 times 2 gives the 6. 7 times 7 gave us the 49. If I had something like 2/5 plus 1/3, now again, those have different names. We know that we can change the names to make them the same, but for right now, we're going to leave it at they're different names. We can't add them. But if we were multiplying, again, we don't need the same name to multiply or divide. We're just going to combine the counts. 2 times 1 is 2. And then also combine the names. 5 times 3 is 15. If we look at decimals, 0.21. If we were to pronounce that formally, that of course would be 21 hundredths. So if we look at adding like 0.21 plus 0.3. Is that going to work the way I have it written there? No. What's wrong? Well, we were told probably the same 3rd or 4th grade teacher said, you have to line up the decimal points when you add or subtract. Why? Well, because we said this is 21 hundredths. This is 3/10. They have different names. Now, fortunately, you can just add a 0 here, and that becomes 30 hundredths. And with that 0 in there, when we write them out, the decimal points automatically line up. When you line up the decimal points, when you add or subtract decimals, all we're doing is making sure they have the same name. Then we go ahead and add. 21 and 30, of course, make 51. What do we do with the decimal point? Drop it straight down. Again, why do we do that? Well, because this is 21 hundredths. This is 30 hundredths. When we add numbers, we combine the counts. 21 plus 30 does give us 51, but we keep the same name. Hundredths plus hundredths better stay hundredths. So dropping that decimal point straight down is just keeping the same name. When we multiply, do we need to line up the decimal point? No. When we multiply, we do not need the same name. So 21 times 3 is 63. Where does our decimal point go? We have to add a 0 there and put our decimal point there. Why did we do that? Well, because we were taught that you have to count in the problem. 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the problem. You start at the end of the answer, count back 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the answer. The decimal point has to go there. Why do we count decimal places? Well, again, this is 21 hundredths. This is 3 tenths. We didn't need the same name to multiply, but we're going to multiply counts. 21 times 3 is 63, but we also multiply the names, combine the names. Hundredths times tenths is thousandths. So when we're counting those decimal places in the problem and making sure we get that many decimal places in the answer, what we're doing is simply combining the names. Let's look at algebraic numbers, like 4x. You hear this called an algebraic term or other things, but it's just another form of a number. It has a count of 4 and a name of x. Just like having 4 cows or 4 inches or 4 sevenths, we can have 4 x's. Now the difference is we know what an inch or a cow or a seventh is. We don't necessarily know what x is. But it doesn't matter. It'll behave the same way. 4x plus 11x is going to give us 15x. Combine the counts. 4 plus 11 is 15. But you keep the same name. X and x stay x. But what if we had 5x plus 2y? What does that become? Well, trick question. They have different names. We can't combine those with addition. So it stays 5x plus 2y. Just like up above, the 5 feet plus 2 pounds stayed 5 feet and 2 pounds. This is 5x and 2y. When we multiply, however, we had 4x times 11x. We combine counts. 4 times 11 is 44. But then we also combine the names. X times x. Just like inches times inches became inches squared, x times x becomes x squared. Or if we have the 5x and 2y, if I multiply, we don't need the same name to multiply, so we combine counts. 5 times 2 is 10, and then we also combine the names. Just like feet times pounds became foot pounds, x times y becomes xy. Now a question I get is, well, what if this were like 4y times 7x? Well, we would still combine counts. 4 times 7 is 28. And we also combine the names. Y times x. If you wrote yx, that would be fine. It's just in math, like in English, there actually is mathematical grammar. One of the things in the math grammar is multiple variables. We tend to prefer to list them in alphabetical order. So 28xy would be more appropriate. If this were the question and you answered 28yx, I would not mark it wrong. That would be just fine. It's just this is considered more grammatically correct in the math world. Any questions on all that? So especially this first unit over the next few classes, we're going to spend a lot of time making those connections from one form of another to number to another. Even looking at why is the process of long multiplication and long division done the way we do it. I won't dwell on number theory, I promise. But like I said, it is important. I just want to give you a little forewarning here since the first test comes up pretty quick. I'll show you what date that's coming up on, since we got another minute and a half here yet. Oops, come on. So I believe it's week 3, yes. So 2 weeks from this Wednesday is when we usually hit test 1. So be prepared for that. We only have about 6 or 7 lectures before we hit the first test. So this first unit does go pretty quick. With that, your homework, like I said, is just send me to my email, which was, I'll write it here again for you, todd.hoff@northwoodtech.edu. Send me a list of days that your school will be not in session, not in school. Whether it's a copy of your school's calendar or just an email with a list of days that you will not be in school that will affect this class. That way we can, like I said, get a schedule made. There will be a few Fridays throughout the semester that we won't have class, just because that tends to be a pretty common in-service day for high schools. But send that to me between now and Wednesday, and on Wednesday we'll get into the actual course material. With that, you guys have a great day. We'll see you Wednesday.